I let my brother crash at my place, and a week later he stole my money and my girlfriend in the same breath. Hi, I'm Mark, 34, and 8 months ago, my brother emptied my bank accounts and ran off with my girlfriend. But that's not the wild part. The wild part is when my 13-year-old daughter looked me dead in the eye and said, "Dad, don't worry, I handled it." You ever watch your whole life collapse in under a week? Like, really fall apart? Let me tell you, it's less dramatic than you'd think. No screaming, no thundercracks, no burning buildings. Just a slow, silent horror as you realize every part of your stability was an illusion. I work in logistics management. Boring, stable, decently paid job. It's the kind of job you fall into when you have a kid and suddenly care more about dental insurance than finding your passion. My daughter, Lily, is 13 and scary smart, like code your own apps for fun smart. She lives with me full-time since her mom, my ex-wife, passed away from cancer when Lily was 9. That broke both of us in ways we still don't fully understand, but we got through it, built a life, a unit, me and her. My brother Kyle, complete opposite. 2 years younger, lifetime underachiever, gold medal mooch, dropped out of college twice, fired from every job he's ever had, somehow always landed on his feet because people just liked him. Not me, though. I loved him, sure, but I never really liked him. So when he showed up at my door all puffy-eyed and, "Bro, I just need 2 weeks," I should have said no, but I didn't. I let him in, and that was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was not noticing how often my girlfriend Brittany started checking on Kyle while I was at work, not questioning why Kyle suddenly had new clothes despite being broke, not asking why my locked desk drawer had been forced open or why my password stopped working the first time I tried logging into my savings account. But none of that registered, not until the day I walked into my own house and heard my girlfriend and my brother in the spare room doing things I can't unhear with the door locked. I didn't yell, didn't break anything. I just knocked, gave them 30 minutes to get out, and sat on the couch with my phone and a timer. By the time my daughter got home from school that day, Kyle and Brittany were gone. So was my trust in basically anyone not named Lily. And I had no idea the full extent of the betrayal. Not yet. That was coming. What I didn't know then, what Kyle didn't know, what Brittany definitely didn't know, was that Lily had already started digging, and my sweet, polite, straight-A daughter was about to turn into the single most terrifying force of justice I'd ever seen. The day after Kyle and Brittany slithered out of my house, I was running on autopilot. You ever get so angry your brain goes full static? That was me. I called a locksmith, changed all the locks, changed my passwords, wiped every shared device in the house. Brittany had used my laptop once when hers was acting up. What a fool I was. Lily noticed. She notices everything. She didn't ask questions, just watched me like she was running diagnostics. I think she knew what was coming before I did. I logged into my bank accounts just before lunch, wanted to double-check everything. My heart stopped. Checking account, $342. I was supposed to have over $8,000. Savings, $3,200. It had been over $28,000. I sat there staring at the screen like it was in another language. Transfers had been made late the night before, over $40,000 gone. 3 separate transfers from checking, 5 from savings, all to an external account. One had even already cleared. I called the fraud department with hands that barely worked. I had to spell Kyle's name 4 times before I could even say it without my voice cracking. They told me the worst part. All the logins had valid credentials, no red flags, just clean, authenticated access. Because Kyle had watched me, seen my habits, maybe even logged into my accounts while I was asleep. And Brittany? She knew my passwords from that time I had the flu and needed her to pay a few bills online. She said she deleted the info. Yeah, sure. The bank told me they'd start an investigation, that these things take time. Then they suggested I file a police report. So that's what I did. It was official now. My brother hadn't just betrayed me, he'd committed actual felony-level fraud, and Brittany had helped him do it.
and I was left with $342, an empty savings account, a maxed-out rage meter, and a daughter who quietly handed me a bowl of soup when I got back from the police station. I hadn't cried yet, not really, but that moment, her sliding a spoon across the table to me, acting like I wasn't shattered, I had to excuse myself to the garage and just sit there with my head in my hands. That's when Lily knocked once on the door and said calm as anything, "Dad, don't worry, I handled it." Handled what, exactly? She didn't answer, just walked away. That night, I found out what she meant, and it would change everything.
I found out what Lily meant the next morning. It started with my phone buzzing nonstop. Emails, texts, missed calls, all from numbers I didn't recognize. Plus one from my mom with just, "What is going on? Call me, now." I barely had time to panic before Lily strolled into the kitchen like it was any normal Friday morning. Ponytail, hoodie, cereal, calm as a cat in a sunbeam. "Lily," I said, holding up my phone like it had personally betrayed me, "what did you do?" She looked up, spoon halfway to her mouth, and said, "Just leveled the playing field." Not an answer, not even close. So she pulled out her phone and showed me a folder of screenshots, at least 40. Text messages between Kyle and Brittany, emails, bank transfer confirmations, chat logs from a burner account where they'd talked about the whole scam. She even had a PDF where Kyle detailed the best time to initiate the transfers. "He sleeps like the dead after 11, just wait till then." Lily, my daughter, had hacked into Kyle's email and social media and Brittany's cloud storage. "Wait, how did you even get into this stuff?" She shrugged. "Uncle Kyle used the same password for everything. Once I got into one account, it was just dominoes." I blinked. "That's horrifyingly impressive." "She watched a lot of DEF CON talks," she said. "Also, Kyle's an idiot." Then she dropped the bomb. She'd already sent everything, to the police detective handling my fraud case, to the bank's fraud department, to my parents, to Brittany's boss, and even to Kyle's last employer and the company he was trying to get hired at in Arizona. Oh, and she'd posted a concise, very clean summary on Kyle's Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn profiles before changing all his passwords and locking him out. She handed me her phone to read it. To everyone wondering why I vanished, I stole $43,000 from my brother after sleeping with his girlfriend in his house. If you've ever trusted me with anything, money, secrets, your Netflix login, you might want to rethink that. I stared at the screen, speechless. "How many people saw this?" I asked. "It was up for about 4 hours," she said, sipping her milk. "Got reshared 200 times before someone reported it and got it taken down. By then, it was already on Reddit." I blinked again. "Reddit?" She nodded. "Subreddit called r/am-I-the-villain. It's trending." I had to sit down. Lily had not just gathered evidence, she'd launched a surgical strike, a 13-year-old vengeance tour. And now Kyle and Brittany weren't just exposed, they were scorched. All I could say was, "Lily, this is a lot." She looked at me, calm as anything. "Dad, you're my best friend, and no one messes with my best friend." That was the exact moment I realized something. This kid wasn't just smart, she was lethal. And I wasn't the only one about to find out. Saturday morning started with a phone call I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Normally I let those go to voicemail, but I was curious, still riding the high from Lily's digital warpath, so I picked up. Big mistake. "You ruined my life!" It took me a second to place the voice because I'd never heard Kyle like this. Unhinged, wheezing, halfway between sobbing and screaming. "Kyle?" I asked, rubbing my temple. "You all right, buddy?" "Don't you buddy me, you vindictive piece of—" I hung up. He called back 2 minutes later. I let it go to voicemail. Then he texted, then he FaceTimed. The man was spiraling. Lily looked up from her cereal and said, "Is he flipping out yet?" "Like a fish on a dock." She smiled. "Good." About an hour later, Mom called. I braced myself. Thought I'd get the classic, "He's still your brother" speech. But no, she sounded furious. Not at me, at him. "You used you, Mark. I don't know how we didn't see it." "I do," I said. "You didn't want to." She didn't argue, just sighed. "Your father's cutting him off completely. We both are." That's when I realized Kyle's entire safety net had collapsed in the matter of days.
No money, no support, no job. Because, thanks to Lily, the company in Arizona had received every single screenshot. They told him not to bother showing up. And Brittany? Oh, Brittany got steamrolled. Her dental office found out she'd accessed patient files outside of work hours. Combine that with the fraud evidence, and boom, fired. Her license was reported to the state board. Lily pulled that up on her phone, too. They're reviewing her license, she said, eyes glued to the screen. She's probably going to lose it. How did you even know how to report her? She gave me that teenager look, the one that says, "Please, I'm smarter than you," and replied, "The state board has a public complaint portal. It's not hard, Dad." I stared at her. "You terrify me in the best way." She shrugged. "You're welcome." Meanwhile, Kyle and Brittany were holed up in a motel, bleeding cash and burning bridges. Their glorious new life? Gone in 72 hours. By Sunday night, Kyle's car had been repossessed. Apparently, our grandfather had co-signed the loan, and when he found out what Kyle did, he reported it as fraud. The lender didn't waste time, towed it right out of the motel lot at 7 a.m. That night, Kyle called me again. This time, I answered. "You think this is funny?" he spat. "I think it's justice," I replied. "You're my brother." "No," I said, "you were my brother. Now you're just a guy who stole from me and got caught." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, "It was that little brat, wasn't it? Your daughter, she did this." I didn't even try to lie. I didn't ask her to, but she did more in 4 days than the cops and the bank could in 4 weeks. He lost it again, screaming, blaming, begging. I let him run his mouth for a bit. Then I said, "Actions have consequences, Kyle. You picked this. Now you live with it." I hung up. Lily, sitting nearby with her headphones around her neck, looked up and said, "Did he cry yet?" "Yep." "Good," she said. "Now we wait." And oh boy, were we just getting started.
Monday morning, the detective called. "Mr. Simmons, we received a lot of new evidence over the weekend." I played dumb. "Oh yeah?" There was an anonymous tip, extremely detailed. Timeline, screenshots, written statements from Kyle and Brittany planning the theft. Frankly, I wish all our cases were this organized. "Sounds like you've got what you need." "Oh, we do," he said. "I just called to ask if you want to officially press charges." I didn't even hesitate. "Absolutely." He thanked me and hung up. 5 minutes later, Lily walked into the kitchen eating a banana like she hadn't just served the state a platter of felony-grade receipts. I assume that was the detective. "Yep." "Did you say yes?" "Yep." She nodded. "Good." By Tuesday, it was official. Kyle had a warrant out for bank fraud and identity theft. Brittany, too, though hers was less severe. She'd been the accomplice, not the mastermind. Her lawyer managed to get her some kind of cooperation deal, which meant she turned on Kyle faster than milk in the sun. Turns out she didn't even know about the full $43,000. She thought Kyle was just borrowing a little to get them set up in Arizona. When she saw the screenshots Lily pulled, texts of him planning to ditch her once they got there, she cracked like a dropped egg. Now everyone was out for Kyle. And Kyle? Kyle was on the run. The police couldn't find him. He ditched his phone. Brittany said they had a burner, but she didn't know the number. The motel room was empty by Tuesday night. Lily was unfazed. "He's not smart. He'll screw up," she said. I hoped she was right, because if he disappeared, I was stuck in limbo. No justice, no restitution, no closure. The bank had frozen the remainder of the stolen funds, but couldn't release them without official confirmation that fraud had occurred. That meant I was still broke. I took a cash advance from work to cover the mortgage, canceled Lily's summer coding camp, told her it wasn't in the budget anymore. She didn't even blink, just said, "That's fine, I've got a project to work on anyway." I didn't ask what that meant. Thursday morning, we finally got a hit. I was drinking coffee on the porch when 2 unmarked cars rolled down the street and parked across from my neighbor's house. My phone rang. Detective again. "We got him. Motel in the next state over. Tried to use a stolen credit card. Flagged immediately. He's in custody." I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. What happens now? "He's being transferred to our jurisdiction. Once he's arraigned, we'll move forward with charges. The DA's office is already drafting a deal, but with this much evidence, we're expecting a guilty plea." I thanked him, sat there in stunned silence. He was caught.
It was real. Lily walked out with her backpack slung over one shoulder, looked at my face and said, "They got him, didn't they?" I nodded. This morning. She gave me a satisfied smirk. Told you he'd screw up. Then she kissed my cheek, grabbed a granola bar, and walked to the bus stop like it was just another school day. Meanwhile, somewhere in a holding cell, my brother was probably trying to figure out how his world crumbled in under 10 days. He still didn't understand. Lily hadn't ruined his life. He had. She just pulled back the curtain. That Friday, I took a breath for what felt like forever. No emergencies, no bank calls, no Kyle screaming through my phone like a banshee on fire. Just quiet. But I wasn't celebrating yet. I knew better. See, the justice system doesn't move fast, especially when it involves family drama, which, according to the detective, is what half the department was calling it behind the scenes. But now that Kyle was in custody and Brittany was singing like a canary, things were actually moving. The bank, bolstered by Lily's digital war chest, escalated their fraud investigation. With Kyle caught and the theft confirmed by the police, they officially reversed 2 of the larger savings transfers. That meant I got back just under $17,000. Still short, but a hell of a lot better than zero. They also froze what was left in Kyle's account and flagged several withdrawals that, based on timestamps, looked like Brittany. I didn't care who took it, as long as it wasn't me paying for their motel coffee and gas station burritos. Lily asked if we could go out to dinner to celebrate. I said sure. She picked a cheap little noodle place with sticky tables and incredible dumplings, sat there slurping noodles like she hadn't just wrecked 2 adult lives with a smartphone and a bad attitude. At one point, she paused and said, "Do you think they'll hate me?" "Who?" I asked. "Kyle, Brittany, their families." I chewed for a second, swallowed. "Does it matter?" She looked at me, all too serious for 13. "Not really, just wondering." I told her the truth. They might, but what you didn't make them do anything. You just showed everyone what was already true. That's not on you. She nodded slowly. I just didn't want them to get away with it. Not after what they did to you, to us. God, I nearly cried into my broth. "You're scary, you know that," I said with a small laugh. She grinned. "I get it from you." We walked home after dinner, talking about completely unrelated things. TV shows, her science project, what color she wanted to dye her hair next. Answer: teal, no question. Normal stuff, comforting stuff. Saturday morning, I got the court notice in the mail. Kyle's arraignment was scheduled for the following Wednesday. The letter was dry and formal, but I read it 3 times. Something about seeing it in black and white made it real. I was allowed to attend. So was Lily, technically, but I decided against it. She didn't need to sit in a courtroom staring at a man in cuffs who used to be her uncle. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I'd say if I got the chance. Something dramatic? Something calm? Should I just sit there and let the legal system handle it? Then I remembered the voicemail Kaya left me, crying, begging, furious. And I remembered Lily's words. He made his choices, now he lives with them. That became my mantra, because tomorrow I would watch my brother answer for all of it, and I wasn't going to flinch.
The courtroom was smaller than I expected. I don't know what I thought. Something grand, maybe? Wooden benches, dramatic lighting, gavel echoes. But it was just beige. Fluorescent lights, scuffed floors, a tired-looking bailiff who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Kyle sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed, hair longer than I remembered. He looked like someone who hadn't had a full night's sleep in weeks. Good. He didn't look at me at first, just stared straight ahead like this was happening to someone else. When the judge called his name, he stood, hands trembling just slightly. That surprised me. The Kyle I knew wouldn't tremble. He'd smirk, maybe wink. But this version of him looked broken. The charges were read. Bank fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. The words felt heavy. I didn't flinch. I wanted him to hear them and remember exactly what he did. His public defender mumbled something about remorse and no prior record. The judge didn't look moved. Then the judge asked Kyle if he wanted to make a statement. He stood, looked at me, and he cried. I don't mean a single tear for sympathy. I mean real, ugly crying. Sniffling, blotchy-faced, gasping for breath crying. He told the judge he'd made a mistake, that he didn't know how deep he'd gotten until it was too late. He said he missed his family, that he missed me. Said he didn't expect me to forgive him, but he hoped I would. Someday. I felt nothing. Not pity, not hate. Just cold detachment. I had loved my brother. I'd defended him for years. But love without trust? It dies fast. The judge gave him 3 years. Could have been more, but the judge said Kyle's cooperation after arrest and Brittany's full confession showed some intention to make amends. She said with good behavior he might serve 18 months. Then she said something that stuck with me. You didn't just steal money. You violated trust. That's harder to earn back than dollars. You'll serve your time, Mr. Simmons, but rebuilding your character? That sentence is much longer. Afterward, Kyle was led past me in cuffs. He looked at me again. Eyes bloodshot, lips twitching like he wanted to say something. I didn't move. Didn't blink. He passed by. No words. Later, I sat in my car, alone, and finally felt the grief hit. Not over the money, or Brittany, over the brother I'd lost, the relationship that died long before I admitted it. I came home to find Lily on the couch in her hoodie, laptop open, snacks beside her like nothing had changed. "How'd it go?" she asked. "He cried," I said. She smirked. "Of course he did." I sat beside her. For the first time in weeks, I felt the tension ease from my shoulders. It was over. Or close enough. We'd survived the betrayal. Now we just had to survive what came next. Life didn't bounce back overnight. I wish it did. I wish I could tell you that after the sentencing, everything clicked into place, money flowed back in, my faith in humanity was restored, and Lily and I rode off into a sunset made of dollar bills and emotional closure. But this isn't a movie. It took time. The bank eventually recovered about $38,000. Most of it came from the frozen transfers that hadn't cleared. A chunk of the money was gone forever, withdrawn in cash, spent at gas stations and motels, or converted to who knows what in Kyle's brief sprint to freedom. Still, I got enough back to restabilize. Mortgage payments caught up, Lily's college fund restarted, smaller but growing again. Brittany pled out. Got probation, 200 hours of community service, and a restitution order to pay back a few $1,000s over the next 5 years. She also lost her dental hygiene license permanently. The board even didn't debate it. Using patient data to help your boyfriend commit fraud tends to end your healthcare career. Last I heard, she moved back with her parents. They froze her trust fund, made her get a retail job, and told everyone she was taking time to reflect. I didn't care. She was a ghost to me now. Kyle stayed in county for a few months before being transferred to a minimum security facility 2 hours out. Our parents visit him once a month. I don't. They invited me. I declined. Mom cried, said I was being cold. Dad stayed quiet until she left the room, then said, "You're not right, just not ready." I appreciated that. Quiet understanding goes a long way. Kyle wrote me a letter from prison. It was long, handwritten, full of what I assume he thought were the right words. Regret, shame, hope for the future. The envelope smelled faintly of cheap soap and institutional air. I read it once. Then I fed it through the shredder. Lily found me standing over the shredder with the last pieces still curling out. "Is that from him?" she asked. "Yeah." "Did he say he's sorry?" "He tried." She nodded. "Doesn't mean much now, huh?" "Nope." We went out for ice cream that night. No occasion, just something to mark the end of a long chapter. She got pistachio, I got chocolate. We sat on the curb outside the shop like kids, even though only one of us technically still was. She looked up at me and said, "Do you think we're okay now?" I thought about it. We're not fixed, but we're okay. We're safe. We're us. She smiled, eyes soft.
Good. A breeze rolled in, lifting her hair just a little. I watched her take another spoonful and realized something. I'd spent years trying to protect her from the world. And in the end, she'd protected me. From my brother, from my blindness, from the kind of betrayal that could have left me bitter forever. We finished our ice cream. We went home. Life moved on. We moved with it.